Immediately I posted on my page that I have started my process to move to Australia. There you. You're going to that country that has a lot of snakes. You're going to Australia of all places. Blah, 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 blah. Hey! In today's video, I am going to be telling you about the most popular misconception about my beautiful country, Australia. Australia is home for me right now. But hey, the views of people that are not here in Australia are alarming. Many of those views, many of those opinions, many of those things you've heard about Australia, they are not true. And in this video, we are going to be tackling it word for word. I wanna flex my love. I wanna impress. Welcome back again to my channel. It's Dale here and I am your captain. I am a registered nurse that recently moved from the UK and I'm currently here in the beautiful New South Wales, Sydney, Australia. So if you're just joining my channel for the first time, hope you do not make it last by hitting the subscribe button, and if you are an OG on this channel, thank you so much for coming back. The very first misconception about Australia is there are snakes everywhere in Australia. Hey! Excuse me, have you been to Australia? Have you been to Australia? Look, no shaming of Australia is allowed. I don't know if I'm too new to the country, but the misconception about snakes being everywhere in Australia is absolutely fallacy. It is not true, because the very first thing I heard when I told people, oh, I'm going to go to Australia, someone said, you want to be living with snakes? You want to be dining with snakes? You want to wake up one day and see snake in your bedroom? Excuse me, I've been here more than a month and I haven't seen any snake. And I've also chatted with people that have been here for a long time, as long as 13 years, 20 years. They have never seen a snake wandering about or in their houses or even on the streets. Where most of you would see snake is in the zoo. And of course, if you go into the bush. Look, these are things that happen in most tropical countries. Australia is one of them. It is not new, but the only thing I would like to say is Australia is home to one of the deadliest animals in the world. That is fact. I'm not going to come here to tell you no, there are no animals in Australia. No, but the misconception of it being everywhere, it lives with us, we wake up and see snake, we wake up and see spiders, oh god, it is not true. There are lots of houses in Australia that you barely see even the spider. It depends on where you live. If you go and live inside the forest, of course you will see a snake. What do you expect? That is their home as well. They live in the bushes. So don't go and rent a house that is inside the bush and don't expect your regular visitors to come. So Australia is a beautiful country. Snakes will not just come into your house. If you live in an open area, snakes will visit you. If you live inside the bush, or if you go to the zoo, or if you go, or as well as if you go hiking in some areas, you might see a snake. But one thing I'll always tell you about the snakes in Australia is 9 out of 10 they will run away from you once they hear you coming along the way. So what my friend that is an Australian told me is, if you are walking in, if you go hiking or if you go into the bush and you feel like a snake might be there, hit on the ground while you walk, okay? Just stamp on your feet and walk. Once a typical snake hears that a human is walking along the way, they run away, okay? Don't go trying to catch the snakes because you want to be a Superman or you want to just do something or anything. By the way, it's illegal to kill a snake here in Australia, so don't even attempt it. If you're caught, I think you will pay a fine of up to 10,000 or even 15,000 Australian dollar. You don't want to pay that for killing a snake, do you? And not all of them are poisonous. Some of them do not have venom in them, so don't even fright. Just move away from that area. That's what I intend to do if I ever come across a snake. And don't worry, I'm going to give you an update if I ever see a snake. But yes, that is a very popular misconception, okay? Many people who live in the city area would most likely never come across a snake. If you go on Google and type about snakes in Australia, you find out that the number of deaths caused by snakes in Australia is 1, 2, or 3 maximum. So for a country that has been painted as a snake island, a snake this, snake that, and they're only having 1 or 2 deaths per year, that tells a lot about the whole internet sensation about Australia and snakes. Okay, you go on TikTok, people will say only in Australia they will show you a snake. Some of those snakes are their pets. Yes, I tell you the fact. Okay, and do you know the funny thing, if you see them, they'll always record the snake very close, or they zoom. If I see a snake, the first thing that comes to my mind is to run. I don't know how they have the mind to record. That is to tell you one thing, it's their pets. Okay, how you keep a dog in your house, would you run from the dog? No, I don't even like dogs. I fret when I see a dog. I run when I see a dog. I move away from that area when I see a dog. Yeah. The second misconception I would like to tackle is people think Australia is extremely expensive. Now, while that is true, the wages are also high. Okay, so I know there are lots of countries that are very expensive to live in and their salaries are still poor, but that's not the case for Australia. So if you think, oh, I will not come to Australia because it's very expensive in Australia, you are just missing out on the good life. Okay, Australia is expensive to live in, yes, but there are a lot of things you can do to cut down on cost. You can live in less expensive area. Okay, so personally, I live in one of the most expensive cities. Sydney is expensive. I know about this before coming, but there are some things that made me choose Sydney. Okay, however, if you are big on cutting down on cost or saving more money, you can choose cities that are very cheap. If you want, you can live in regional areas. Those places are very cheap. You can even get accommodation. Like if you are in the healthcare field, you can get free accommodation. You're going to cut down on a lot of things, and don't forget that your salary is very high as well. You can also cut down on your tax by doing salary packaging. There are just a lot of things that you can do to earn money and meet up with the cost of living. Okay, so that means that, hey, it's too expensive to live in Australia. Have you ever seen anyone complaining about life in Australia, that hey, the money, blah blah? No, you barely see that, except people that really do not want you to come. But when it comes to cost of living with salary, it matches, it meets the expectation, except you live above your means. That's when you start complaining. But yeah, the market here in Australia is good, the pay is good, and it does meet the cost of living as well. Of recent, Australia had to increase their minimum wage. Last tax year, minimum wage for Australia was $21 per hour, but now it's currently $23 per hour. It went up about $2 per hour, which is a good thing, and it's a good indication that the living cost and the salary matches, and you barely find any employer that will pay you minimum wage. It is a very rare occurrence. If you are an Australian, please let us know as well in the comment section. I would definitely love to read from you what you think about the cost of living. Another popular misconception about Australia is that Australians are racist. Excuse me. Hey, let me tell you about racism here in Australia. Australia is not a racist country. I don't know where people got that information from, but a lot of people think that Australians are very racist, or one of the most. Excuse me, have you traveled? Most of you people that say these things, I feel like you've not gone to some countries or to think that Australians are racist. There are some countries that are very racist, even to your face. If you ever experience racism here in Australia, it is very subtle. Okay, very very subtle. You might not even notice it. Okay, and even if you do, 9 out of 10%, the racism is not coming from a pure Australian. It is definitely coming from immigrants who have lived here for a long time. Okay, anytime you experience any racism, look very well. It is most likely an immigrant who do not want you to succeed as well. I've had my own encounter with racism here, and funny enough, it's from people that are supposed to be my brothers and sisters. Okay, I won't go into that because it's past now, but you will not really encounter an Australian that is a racist. They are very nice and welcoming people. If you doubt me, go and check on my culture shock video. Go and check on my first impressions about Australia. Read through the comments. You will see that they are welcoming people, and I'm not even making these things up. Okay, even at work, the Australians, they are amazing. They are not racist. I mean, I've seen they are not. Okay, so please remove that from your mind. Okay, they do have their own issues. I'm not going to say it's a perfect country. It's not a perfect country, but for people to bring up that issue as Australia is too racist, I don't think it is too racist. I've not been to every part of Australia, so I can't say for other part, but I'm talking about New South Wales here in Sydney. It's too multicultural for you to even experience any kind of racism, especially the one to your face, like calling you names or even telling you to go back to your country. It's a rare occurrence here in Australia, and even if you do, it is very frowned upon. It's not something that is welcome. You can easily report that person, and bear in mind that it will be taken up correctly. Okay, so yes, many people think that Australia is too racist. That's why they don't want to come to Australia. Friendly people, they are very welcoming. They are very helpful people. If I'm walking on the way and I look lost, someone will always ask me, what are you looking for? The other day I was in the mall and I was just searching through the location screen, and a policeman just walked up to me, do you need help? Australians are not racist. I mean, there will always be one or two bad eggs in every country, but I cannot pinpoint and say racism is a very big issue here in Australia. That is fallacy. That is false. It is not true. Okay, Australians are one of the most welcoming people. Like I said, go through my videos, read the comments. You would definitely know that they are not what the internet portrays them to be. What other misconceptions have you heard about Australia? I like to read from you in the comment section, so let me know what kind of misconceptions have you heard. Another popular misconception people have is Australia is the end of the world. A lot of people always say that. While I agree that Australia is far from majority of us, like if you're coming from Africa, you spend like 30 hours. If you're coming from the UK, you spend like 22 hours. It's actually far from a lot of places, but one popular misconception is it is far from everywhere. It's not far from everywhere. We've got Asian countries that Australia is very close to. Australia is close to New Zealand. Australia is close to Fiji. Australia is close to Philippines. Australia is close to Asian countries. So that misconception that Australia is isolated, it's not isolated. Australia alone has lots of states you can travel to if you are an adventure lover as well. However, yes, I agree it is far from so many places, but it doesn't mean that it is on its own and then no one can access Australia, as most people always think. But yeah, if you find this video useful, make sure you hit the like button. Also subscribe to my channel and share this video with a friend so that they can also benefit from my tales. I share my life in Australia, I share my nursing adventure, and just some tips that might help you navigate yourself here in Australia. Another misconception about Australia is it is too hot. I agree, Australia is hot, but not every part of Australia is hot. I agree, it is very hot in Australia, but there are other places in Australia that the weather is good. Okay, places like Tasmania, it is not extremely hot. Places like Melbourne, the weather is not too bad as well because it does rain most of the times. If you go down to the Northern Territories, it is very hot there, but there are some parts in Australia that are not hot. Okay, so a lot of people be like, oh, it's too hot in Australia. It depends on where you go. So that's actually a misconception. The whole of Australia is not all hot. There are some times in Tasmania that it does snow. There are other parts in Australia that it does snow. If I remember, I'm going to put it on the screen. And Australia does have winter as well. If you follow my videos, you know that there are some times you see people outside wearing jackets and all, but generally the weather in Australia is not too bad. It's not too hot and it's not too cold. It does get hot, like about 40 degrees during summer, but the whole misconception that it's all around hot, that is not true. Okay, it is not true. People think that, oh, Australia is very far from the world. You think that people are not here. You will always find one person from your country here in Australia. You would always find people from all over the world in Australia because Australia is very multicultural. Okay, so even if it's the end of the world, as many people say, you will find people here. You will find African foodstuffs here. Please don't let that discourage you from coming to Australia. I hope with these few points of mine, I'm able to convince you that Australia is an amazing country. It is not perfect, but it is one of the best countries you will ever find yourself in. And I hope that it does make you change your mind about coming into Australia, especially if you have the skills. Look, Australia is in need of skilled workers, especially healthcare workers. So please make your way down here. Don't listen to what the internet have to say. It is not what you think, okay? And I know that you are going to enjoy the land down under like I am doing. And I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.